In the Bronx, Sal sounds off on the biggest sports news of the day. Welcome to WFAN Daily with Sal Licata.
Well, it's not Sal Licata. As you can see, it's Pete Hoffman filling in. You can always hit me up at Hoff WFAN. And the New York Rangers lost Game 4 in Florida in OT off of I don't want to say it was a weak-ass type of penalty call, but in the playoffs, you don't call penalties. You kind of eat the whistles. They kind of did it at the end of the third period. So to get a penalty so quick in OT and Sam Reinhart just bury it so quickly, it's kind of deflating. It's kind of upsetting. It's like, where was this the whole game? I understand you have to call the egregious stuff, but it really, it could have been a penalty shot. I've almost would have taken a penalty shot over a power play because I could deal with Shesterkin one-on-one with anybody. I can't deal with a 5-on-4 momentum on Florida side. And, Sam Reinhart buries the goal. The first clean goal on Igor Shesterkin, I think, in about 3 games. If you look back at the first 2 goals that they scored earlier, they had the tip in off of, was Verhage, not high stick, but obviously, batted it in. And then you had basically the first goal of the game was basically just a lucky shot that got through, was on the side of the net, kind of crept through Igor Shesterkin's pads, and then everyone kept on chipping at it, eventually went in the net. Not clean goals at all. And if you look at the last goals from last game, everything was all chips. Everything was like a backhand shot that deflected off of somebody. Nothing was really going clean. So, Igor has really been on top of his game. That's the first clean goal he's really given up in the past 2 games. And it's just depressing. It's upsetting because the Rangers finally played their best hockey since Game 3 of Carolina. You want to put that one period of hockey where Chris Kreider scored 3 goals in that one period in Game 6 and put the team on his back. Yeah, that was a great period for Chris Kreider. But the Rangers as a whole have not played good hockey, period. End of story, at least as far as dominating. And that's what they did to start the game. This first period, it looked like the Rangers of old. It looked like the Rangers that won the President's Trophy. It looked like the New York Rangers that, were better than every team in the league. The passes were crisp. They were flying up and down the ice. The power plays looked good. They were, again, making crisp passes, just looking like they were a step ahead. And then you go to period 2 and 3, and then, overtime barely was. They looked slow again. They looked like they were being dominated by the Panthers. And that, I think, has been the most frustrating thing because, listen, this series now tied up at 2. It's not the end of the world. We would take it. If they won the first 2 games at home and then lost the last 2 games on the road, you still sign up for that because it's now the best of 3 and you still have the 2 games in hand at home that you feel, okay, Rangers should be able to win those 2 games. But, man, they've played such bad hockey, and they had the lead. And they found a way to score a power play goal early, and they look like at least the way that Igor's playing, nothing was getting by him. And, again, the 2 goals that got by him were not very sexy. Were just kind of crappy. Listen, let's put it this way. The Wenberg goal that went in overtime and on Sunday, that was a fluke. Well, that's kind of how it was when you get a chippy shot that you kind of not high sticking, but just bat it in. It was a lucky shot. Obviously you need to be able to be in position to do that. Hey, that's how Lafreniere. That's how Fox fed Lafreniere. Fox made a nice move, kind of passed it up high, and Lafreniere just kind of buried it. And by the way, Lafreniere's been the best Ranger, no questions asked. If you want to pick one player, obviously Igor in net, you could say him all day. But if there's one player that's been the best this playoffs, it is Alexei Lafreniere. I mean, he has been phenomenal. He's starting to look like a superstar. When you're talking about guys who could just go up and down the ice and make moves and deke players out and just kind of make people look stupid. I mean, he's breaking ankles on the skates. I mean, that's what Alexis Lafreniere is doing. He had plenty of opportunities to just make moves, and I thought he was going to get a couple of shots. I mean, he made had a good couple shots on net, just couldn't bury them, but made the defense look stupid. But then buried that one that Adam Fox set him up with. I mean, he really has been incredible, and you got to say, you know, he's the one who's definitely stepped up compared to Mika Zibanejad, compared to Chris Kreider. I mean, Panarin. I mean, where the hell are these guys? Where offensive? And that's what offensively they started to look better in the first period. You started to see those guys actually look like they did during the regular season. During the last series versus Carolina, versus the Capitals, those guys started to fly. They started to look like they had a burst of energy, and then it disappeared again. And that's starting to get concerning. You know, it's only there's 3 games left. You know, it's a best of 3. I mean, obviously the hope is win the next 2 in a row, call it a day, go to the Stanley Cup. Let's talk later. But they do have 2 opportunities to play at home. You know, so the odds feel better. You feel better about it. But those guys got to start clicking, man. Like Thursday, you better see Panarin, Mika, and Kreider all on the scoring sheet. Like, it's not just one of them. All 3 of them have to be. They got to bury it in the back of the net. They just have to. I mean, Zibanejad looked like he almost had a couple shots on that were decent, but even Kreider's been all 3 of them. You can't even say enough about those 3 that they're just looking lost right now, and it's very frustrating. And that is a key reason why they lost. I mean, you look through the numbers. Scoring 2 goals, is it going to win you games? When you have Igor Shesterkin, it may, because he's so good. But to give him power play so quick, and again, Zibanejad on that OT goal, the OT power play that was given up, Zibanejad set that up here. Bad pass. It was a sloppy pass. It was not able to get to the puck and put Blake Wheeler in a bad spot that he had to take a penalty, which really sucked. And then in the end, there you go. Blake Wheeler comes out, finally gets on the ice. Filipino sits instead and again, Wheeler's on the ice, takes a bad penalty, is what it is. And then again, I just hate to see it. It's just so frustrating because I think the Rangers should be winning this series. They should be up 3-1. And this should be almost like a sigh of relief. And hey, we're that much closer to the Stanley Cup. Instead, we now have to grind out the next 2 to 3 games. And it's with every game, this is 3 games in a row they've got to overtime. With every game, that anxiety just keeps on building and building and building. And I just, it's just a very frustrating loss for the Rangers. Again, the way that Igor's been playing, it's frustrating. And the way that the offense has just looked so dead. Now, on top of the Rangers sucking and losing, you had the New York Mets, who, guess what? They lost again. But not just once. No. Twice. Because they had a doubleheader versus the Dodgers, and they couldn't do jack shit. You have, in the first game, the Mets are winning a 2-0 game, and guess who was the production? Francisco Lindor. Holy crap. The guy that doesn't do anything, the guy that everyone says has to get out of town, who's the worst player in baseball. Wow. Whenever he does something, it's not significant. Well, it's funny because he was the only offense for 8.5 innings or 8 innings of this game was Francisco Lindor, a 2-run home run. They're up. It felt like a significant home run. It felt like a big hit. They go to not Edwin Diaz in a safe situation. They go to Adam Ottavino, who, guess what? He fucking blows it too. I mean, everybody blows it. It doesn't make a difference who it is. The Mets keep finding ways to lose. And then let's go to extra innings. Well, no, hold on. Let's not go to extra innings. Let's get bases loaded. Let's get bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth. and we'll give it an opportunity for a couple guys to get a big spot. Hey, Jeff McNeil, maybe you want to get a hit. Maybe you want to find a way to score a run in some capacity. Just please, base loaded, anything, do anything. Get hit by a freaking pitch. I don't care. Just find a way to get one of these runners in. Nope, nothing, nada. You go to extra innings and 3-2 right off the bat, and then Freddie Freeman with a 2-run home run to make it 5-2. And obviously the Mets are done after that. And that was game one. Then they had to play another game. And they went out and just got a big old over shutout. And my favorite part is that Mark Vientos, again, 3 games in a row, sets the bench. The guy is the best batting average, one of the best OPSs on the team, is actually hitting the ball. Defensively, yeah, I know he's not significantly an upgrade at third base at all, but guess what? He's the guy that needs to play every day at third base. I don't care anymore. I don't want to see Brett Baty at all, because let's be honest with you. In game 1 of this versus the Dodgers, he made some bad plays that really, caused significant issues that led to runs. Okay? You can blame it. You can blame everything on Lindor. It's always Lindor's fault. It's always, they couldn't turn this double play. In the big spot, he struck out. He couldn't do this. He couldn't do that. You know what? It's time to start blaming other people, because they all suck. They all are terrible. It doesn't make a difference who it is. They're all a piece of crap when they go out and play for the New York Mets and put the New York Mets jersey on. They're just terrible. And if it's one day, if it's Lindor, the next day it's Baty, the next day it's McNeil, the next day it's Diaz, or it's all of them all together. So it doesn't really make a difference. They're just a bad team. It really comes down to it. Even though I don't think they're that bad. It's so weird because they have spots where they go, this is the game they should win. They're going to find a way to win this game. And then it takes one person to blow it. Now, listen, it wasn't just Ottavino today in the first game. It was Baty, like we said. You want to go up and down the line between McNeil, who didn't get a hit. Or do you want to blame it on Lindor for not turning it up? Everyone has an opportunity to take blame for this. It is a group effort, but it's getting annoying. And then you go to game 2, which there was just no life. There's zero life. I think they got 3 hits versus Gavin Stone and the bullpen. I mean, they are lifeless right now. And I don't blame them, because there's a lot that we sit here and point fingers to. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's everybody's fault, because everyone's pressing. You want to sit here and talk about the reality of the New York Mets right now. It's not that they're a terrible ball club. It's not that these guys are just straight up trash. That's not the case. Everyone is pressing. We are putting so much pressure on everything they do, from game 1 to game, what is it now? They're 10 games under 500, or were they 22 and 32? So it's game 54. From game 1 to game 54, we've put so much pressure on them, and rightfully so. This is baseball. We're fans. This is what we're supposed to do. But we are putting so much pressure on them that I'm telling you right now, they can't handle. None of them can. And they're doing their best to just kind of go through it. But as a team, they do not have the stones to basically play in New York, play for an organization that has this type of pressure. But it's really what it comes down to. They don't have what it takes. I hope that changes. I hope they prove me wrong. But first comes the first. Sit Baty. Done. I'm over it. If Mark Vientos is here, play him every freaking game. There is no reason to have 3 games in a row of his ass on the bench and their offense do nothing. Someone made a point, Sunday's game when they won, Mark Vientos wouldn't have been able to make that play defensively that Brett Baty made. So that is the reason why they were able to win the game. They were down to their final outs, 3-1. They got lucky in the last inning to get on base, to get hits, and get a rally. So let's not make this out to be, Brett Baty saved the game, which is why we were able to come back in the 9th inning. No. They got very lucky that Camilo Duvall wasn't good, or that whoever the Giants closer wasn't good in the 9th inning. And that's what the case was. It wasn't because Brett Baty made a good defensive play on the field, which then allowed the Mets to come back and win. The Mets are lifeless right now. And Brett Baty does nothing significant. This is my issue last year when Brett Beatty wasn't getting playing time, or when Mark Vientos was getting playing time. You had Eduardo Escobar, who was not very good defensively, and he was stealing plays or stealing innings from Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos. And then finally, they're like, well, Beatty's just not really great defensively. But Escobar was terrible. So what the hell's the difference? If Escobar's not hitting and he's not playing defense, put the next guy in line. And it's the same thing. Brett Beatty is not significantly an upgrade defensively over Mark Vientos, where Vientos' bat should not be in the lineup every day. I'm sorry. I'm over it now. So that's the first change. Beatty to the bench, Vientos in the lineup. From there on, there's really no one to call up. That's the other thing. There's no hope in sight. These guys got to figure it out. But I'll tell you this much, McNeil's ass got to get to the bench soon too. If it's not McNeil, if it's not Beatty, if it's not Starling Marte, there's got to find ways to bring in somebody else. If there's anybody, any hope in sight, they got to find ways to. And I hear what David Stearns is saying. Hey, these are the guys. This is the team that we thought could be a playoff team. They're just not playing that way right now. I mean, they are 10 games under 500, and unlike when the Nationals and the Phillies and some other teams in the previous years went off and won the World Series or went to the playoffs after being, X amount of games behind 500, this team looks lifeless. And I don't think the season's over. I'm not going to call it over. I still think they're going to finish around 500 at the end of the year. But this is a bad, bad stretch, and they need to turn it around ASAP. All right, that's it for me. Again, very disappointing losses with the Rangers and the Mets. Three by the two teams combined. And again, that should have been a victory for the Rangers. They should have found a way to win that. With the way that Shesterkin played, the way that the first period looked, it seemed like the Rangers got back to their old ways. Instead, last two periods and the OT, back down to the dumps. Well, listen, again, thank you for listening. Thank you for following. Go like, subscribe, all that stuff. I appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow with Sal Licata, or today, depending on when you listen to this, or with Sal Licata and Brandon Tierney, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can always follow me at Hop WFAN. And listen, it's not over for the Rangers. It may be over for the Mets. It's not over for the Rangers. It's just series of ties up at 2, but it just makes the anxiety build that much more. And I don't want to deal with that till the Stanley Cup. I need to get to the Stanley Cup to deal with the anxiety. Like, stop with the OT. Let's score 4 goals in the next game. Let's get a W and call it a freaking day. I don't care if you win in Florida or not. Get back to MSG and make it another 4-goal win. Like, I don't want to deal with these OT games. I don't want them close. I need the offense to start to pour it on. I need Chris Kreider to take control. All right, guys. Thanks again for listening to another episode of WFAN Daily.